Hello and welcome to episode 19 of the Women in Manufacturing Association's Hear Her Story podcast. My name is Allison Grealis and I'm the president and founder of the Women in Manufacturing Association and Education Foundation. As your host, it is my pleasure to introduce you to our guest for this episode, Jd Marhevko. Jd is Vice President of Quality for the ADAS and Electronics Division at ZF Group. In addition to being a leader within her company and throughout her career, she was also recognized as a 2021 inductee into the Women in Manufacturing Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame recognizes women who have made and or are making renowned contributions to the manufacturing industry regarding efforts to support, promote, and inspire women in industry. We are so excited to continue this mission today and to talk live today to introduce you to Jd. Welcome, Jd.
Thank you.
Well, we're thrilled to have you on today's podcast and, to hear and learn your story and kind of all about you, how you've made your way and found great success in your manufacturing career, and to share some insights and expertise and advice to our listeners. So thrilled to have our conversation. As we get into our conversation, we often like to start with learning a little bit about your life story. So, where you grew up, a little bit about what inspired you as a young woman, and as well, those things that you first it got you interested into things, whether they be extracurricular or hobbies. So if you'd maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
I grew up really poor on the east side of Detroit, and we were always scrabbling for money. So as a young kid, I got the intensive, fun chore of having the Detroit Free Press newspaper delivery route. And in those days, you did that by bicycle, winter, spring, or fall, rain or snow, didn't matter. And we were up by the age of 12, up by 4 o'clock every morning throughout those weather conditions, delivering for about 2 hours to all of our customers so that we could be ready for the bus, to get back for the bus on time. And then while we're on the bus, we're either studying really hard or we're taking a quick nap on our way to school. It was a tough job. You learned a lot of self-discipline right away. And all the money that we collected at the end of the week, it was all put onto the table. My other brother and sister and I also had routes in the same area. All our money went on the table and it all went to help pay bills. So it wasn't your money. It was whatever the family needed at the time. The worst part really was learning about trying to collect money from people who dodged a 12-year-old kid so they wouldn't have to pay their $1.35 a week for newspapers. And it was really very frustrating. And you learned a lot to lay in wait so you could stalk and catch those little folks. But it taught me a lot growing up. It taught me how to keep my word and to be dependable and reliable, because customers have no issues with complaining when you're late with the paper, no matter what the reason, flat tires, barking dogs, no reason whatsoever. They just call you right away. It is a shame today. Most of the newspapers are going out of print. It's really sad. I used to think how disappointing it was to have a person deliver the paper in a car. I'm thinking, wow, they're missing out on the real experience. And now they're not even doing that anymore. And the Sunday Fundies are my favorite. Those are always the best. I have a lot of interests. I'm an avid volleyball player, played volleyball for decades. I'm not as good as I used to be, but as long as you can roll me onto the court, I'll do something. I'm a voracious reader. I serve in several professional societies to help make a difference in our communities. Notably, American Society for Quality, CADIA. I'm just joining SWE, the Society of Women Engineers. I'm active in WiM, Women in Manufacturing. There's a lot of things that I like to try to help contribute to give back. And I enjoy my family and my vegetable gardens.
I love it. So I love that you share this story about paper routes, because I also was a former paper route runner and had a neighborhood friend named Billy. And the two of us had our paper route, I think, for 1.5 years at least. And it is a tough job, waking up super early. As you cited, the exhaustion. I remember having to take naps after school because I was so pooped from waking up at 4 or 4:30 a.m. And I do remember those same things, the collections, the having to manually stuff the funnies and the ads into the papers, dealing with customers that didn't get their paper, having to go back out then later to deliver one because it was missed. And I think it all goes into that larger piece of work ethic and learning to work at an early age, which I see so often amongst my peers and friends, that so many of their kids don't have jobs and never have jobs sometimes until they get beyond college. And that missed opportunity to learn about responsibility and customers and complaints, as you mentioned, it's so important for us as well to learn that value of earning your own dollar and earning money and the value of a dollar. So very cool that we were both former paper route delivery people.
That is interesting.
So as you look at kind of your early start and having to be a contributor and helping support your family, how did you then kind of make your way into your first job, and what educational pursuit did you go into as you looked at higher education?
Well, as you know, I already said I grew up pretty poor, but I needed to break that cycle, and no one else could do that for me. So I had to do it for myself. So in my mind, that kind of success meant being an engineer or a technical degree. I don't know why it had to be that, but that's just what got set in my brain. So therefore, I had to go to school for engineering. I had a phenomenal high school teacher who was very encouraging, and I helped pave the way for me to get an initial scholarship to the local community college. And I was able to start college when I was 16. Along the way, I've had so many mentors and role models to help me do these things. My mother was a single parent, and she was in a non-traditional role job in law enforcement. And there was not too much pity coming from her if something wasn't quite going my way. So it was suck it up and make it work. That was kind of the attitude you got at home. Therefore, with that support, so to speak, you just had to go forward. And that helped me to really decide if it was what I wanted to do, I had to do it. And I had to find a way to be successful, leveraging the people that were willing to help me so that I could move along the path.
Wow. Sounds like a great role model, and how great that you had mentors along the way to kind of guide you to help, find those resources that you could tap into for going into school and education. How interesting that you can't remember what was it that piqued your interest into engineering and sciences, but that's what you saw as this route to, hey, if I'm going to support myself, that's the type of degree I need to pursue.
Yeah, I just thought I am and was a very good artist. I won a lot of art awards. I had full-scale art scholarships, and all I had in my brain is artist starve. And I already knew what that was like, so I didn't want to do that again. Therefore, It had to be something technical. I had to make money, and that meant engineering. That was just how my brain was wired.
That's great. So you started community college and in pursuing your higher education at a very young age. What did that look like then? Did you graduate from your degree really early and started work, I'm assuming, pretty early in your age?
It was a parallel path. I always had to work full time in order to help bring money to the table. I moved out early, was with a roommate, fully self-sufficient, very, very early on. So always going to school full time and working full time concurrently. And today you don't see many people doing that anymore either. But that work ethic pretty much gets developed. I was working in what they called group homes at the time with developmentally challenged adults. And you learn a lot about people, what people can do to help themselves and what limitations are, and working to be very, very patient with folks and finding alternative ways to get the desired behaviors you need to be successful. The group home saved my life because I could eat there. I could go there for the evening shift and have dinner with the group home while I'm cleaning. I could do the midnight to 8 shift and still have my breakfast and do my studying after all the chores were done. It was a phenomenal job of heavy, heavy learning, and still able to allow me to continue on my path.
Wow, that's amazing. And what a great work ethic you were exemplifying, and also, what tenacity, and I'm sure at times it was really challenging to be doing a full-time career and a full-time job, and as well trying to support yourself and to keep yourself fed, and then as well to be pursuing your education. That's a lot of things to be juggling at one time for a young woman.
I was the only girl in college for quite a while, and that often wasn't well received in those days. So a lot of war stories from that, but you grow a thick skin and you just move on.
Wow. So hopefully demographics changed, or I think they've changed.
I hope so. My niece went there and she really likes it.
Oh, good. That's
she
excellent.
Just graduated, I think, in aeronautics. So she's a smart cookie.
Okay. So you went then to school, got an engineering degree, and then what did you or how did you frame or decide what you wanted to do with that degree or how you could apply it?
Well, I was always, as I was working towards the degree, I actually fell into an operations job, working in statistical process control, SPC, which was doing data and math and running numbers for how the production process was doing. And that was my intro into quality. I was running the multiple machines on the floor, helping to not only run the equipment, but run the data on the equipment, do the inspections, do the setups, getting very, very hands-on in the process. My grandfather was a master tool and die maker. He taught me how to use a lot of his equipment and machinery that he had in his own garage. It's a lot of fun. I didn't make everything perfectly, but got to learn a lot of things along the way. So I had a lot of learnings across that timing, but I was always I got into the field, so to speak, quite early by my 20s. No internships at that time, not in those days, and it was just working and going to school and roller skating between 2 to 3 different jobs while finishing my degrees.
Wow, that's a busy journey, and how neat that your grandfather was exposing you as well, and in his garage to tools and processes. And so you found your way into quality. And what have you liked, or what have you been, I guess, most satisfied with this long career that you've had and a very established career in the quality space for all of these years?
For me, my entire career, by design or by accident, has always been in safety products, whether it's planes, military, automotive, food. And that has led me to a very serious approach to what quality means. If it's not right, somebody can be adversely affected in their livelihood. And that's a serious responsibility. In doing that, I've had some very strong mentors that help me realize that as I'm doing my function, so to speak, other people have to do their function too. Engineering has to do their job. They have to design and develop. Sales has to do their job, HR, so on and so forth. Nevertheless, we all have to come together as a team and bring our pieces together to make the whole. One of my strongest mentors in the industry that I've had is Rick Dowd. He's a West Point Ranger, and he was the past CEO of Accuride and Delphi, and he's the current CEO of Workhorse, which is making drones. And he is still one of my favorite leaders that I have today. So anyway, with Rick, what we've been able to do is he really demonstrated that strong sense of teaming community and everyone being aligned with clear goals and objectives. With that happening, our team was able to take very adverse or negatively performing businesses and convert them to best in class. And that was a lifelong lesson that I've been able to take with me.
That's excellent. So what processes, I always love to hear about business transformations, taking those underperforming facilities or operations or processes and improving them for the better and making them some of the most highly performing of an organization. So what type of processes, tools did Rick and you and your team employ to help improve operations?
Well, I'm a huge CI person, continuous improvement. Other people call it lean, business excellence, operational excellence. There's lots of handles out there. They all mean the same thing, make it better. So when you look at making a product or process, whatever it is you're selling, you have to do 2 things. You have to make it well, which is effectiveness. That's quality, and it has to be efficient. So anytime you're making a product or a process, you have to make sure that you're delivering on 2 things. The quality of what you're delivering, which means it has to be done correctly. And then the efficiency of what you're delivering. It has to be cost effective, so customers will buy it. And you have to be able to make a profit. And it also has to be timely. So you have quality and efficiency, or effectiveness and efficiency. And both of those go hand in hand. For lean to happen, you have to have quality in place, or you can't go fast. You can't be efficient. If you're trying to be efficient, you don't have quality. I mean, they both complement each other, and you can't do one without the other or without sacrificing the other. I've been blessed to be with lots of different teams that have been on various lean journeys and have written a few books on the process, which have had some good success. And along doing that, I've been able to see some of the best businesses in the United States. I've been on the Baldrige assessment team for the state of Michigan. It's now called Performance Excellence. And by being a performance excellence assessor, which is a voluntary position, you're invited to read some of the best stories of the best performing organizations that state has to offer. And if they score very well, you get to go see them. It's free benchmarking. Of course, you have the NDAs in place and non-disclosure agreements. Nevertheless, you have an opportunity to learn and see what fits for you and what you're doing in your current space.
That's excellent. And I'm going to have to read your book, JD. I'm always looking for inspiration. And, granted, we're not a manufacturer per se, but we are, an organization that's producing events and conferences and services. And we're always looking to try to say, how can we become more efficient and reach more people and do so in an effective way? So I'm going to have to read your book or your multiple books.
It's not lean manufacturing, it's lean management. It's very inexpensive. It's made so that it's accessible to people so that they can make a difference in their organizations. And it's through Accuride Corporation.
I will check it out. Thank you, JD.
You make it, let EMC protect it. From tailored protection to essential coverages, EMC insurance companies can provide your manufacturing business with the right insurance to keep your operation running smoothly. Plus, with nearly a century of safety experience, we know how to help manufacturers prevent accidents and costly losses. We go beyond the basic loss control survey, working with you to create custom workplace safety plans. And to help keep safety top of mind and at your fingertips, we provide a variety of online tools and on-demand trainings, available whenever you need them. If an accident does occur, we're always ready to respond with local, personalized service to help you recover quickly. From prompt, fair claim settlements to effective return to work strategies, you can count on EMC to help you maximize your uptime. Contact your local independent insurance agent today or visit emcins.com to find out how EMC insurance companies can help you protect your manufacturing business.
Cultivate your professional community and make new connections at WiM's annual Summit Conference taking place on October 10th through the 12th, 2022. Join us virtually or in person in Atlanta, Georgia for a 3-day agenda full of plant tours at leading manufacturing facilities, engaging breakout sessions with expert presenters, and inspiring keynotes from industry leaders. Make the most of your summit experience by taking part in volunteer opportunities, networking receptions, and traveling dinners, and celebrate women in manufacturing at our annual Hall of Fame Gala on October 12th. Early bird registration for Summit ends on July 1st. Get the details and register today at www.womeninmanufacturing.org.
So I know that as we did some kind of pre-connecting, you had shared about a little bit about your passion around the topic of sustainability. So I thought maybe you could talk a little bit about your interest in this area and your passion in this area, and why is this important and how has it impacted your career?
Everything we do in quality is trying to avoid scrap. I've been in the aftermarket businesses, which is recycling, keeping things out of the landfill. But we have to be aware of the impact we're having to our planet. I've been blessed to travel to all 7 continents, and I've had an opportunity to see how other countries take the seriousness of taking care of the country and the environment that they inhabit. And the United States is probably the most lax, with the ability to do the most, but does the least. We need to manage plastics so much more mindfully. Everyone with those little plastic bags in the grocery stores, please bring something with you. In Europe, you get charged to buy a bag. They don't sell you plastic at all. It's not an option. But it's just so impactful to our environment. Styrofoam takes 500 years to decompose, and that's 1/3 of our landfills today. We need to be very mindful of ourselves so that we can help save something for our future, for our kids and our children's children, so that they have something that's not so grossly affected like it is today. The things that I've seen in the Arctic and the Antarctic in terms of the global warming, the ice melting, the extinction of species. It's just very, very thought-provoking, and everyone needs to do what they can. I try very hard not to use plastic water bottles ever. I think I was required to use one totally this year.
Wow. That's a great commitment, and I think a great call to action that you're making. And it's interesting, the generation when I grew up, it was talked about a lot about emissions and about harming the environment, and almost this worry and this awareness that was placed on us as kids in early education, high school. And I remember I was the chair of a social action committee in high school, and every day on the announcements, I talked about a different social statistic or, a point of awareness for our classmates. And I know it seems like we've all lost a lot of focus around the continued harming and damaging that we're doing to the environment, and the small things that we can all do to make an impact, such as you said, bring your bag to the grocery, not purchasing water bottles that, at least when I have bought them, they're just around my house and people lose track of them and never finish them. And there's so many small things we can do that can have a big impact to help.
Plastic cups, plastic silverware, plastic straws. I mean, all of these things have different alternatives today, and we need to be mindful and do our part.
Definitely. So in 2021, you were inducted into the Women in Manufacturing Hall of Fame, which is produced and powered by the Women in Manufacturing Association. And I just wanted to ask a little bit about what did that recognition mean for you and for your career?
Well, I think I was in shock for like several months. It just didn't seem real. When I saw the other women that were also selected at the same time, I really had a hard time seeing myself beside some of these women. They were powerhouses. Some of them had worked in the White House with presidents and had such huge, monumental effects. And everyone brought so many different and unique things to the table. It just made me so much more aware of what could be accomplished by people when you set your mind to it. Being in the United States and the only person in the Detroit area, the Detroit Free Press put a whole one-page spread up, and that Phoebe Wall-Howard was the editor on that, and she was just amazing, very patient, but it was just a tremendous opportunity to get recognition for things that I thought other people helped me do.
And that's funny that you say that, because I think so often we as women have that this humbleness, which is great, but as well, I think sometimes we don't own our own achievements. And as you said, your impression was that you did these things, but it was all with lots of other people's help. And so often our male counterparts probably wouldn't have the same reaction to getting an award of this importance. I doubt that they'd be kind of as in awe or probably as kind of questioning as you maybe were at first about, am I worthy? Is this right that I'm with these other people? But you definitely, of course, were very well worthy and deserving, and we're thrilled to have you in our Hall of Fame. And I know this year, we'll give a plug, we are celebrating our third annual inductions into the Hall of Fame this October 12th at our summit, and we'll be excited to celebrate the new class. And of course, we like to re-celebrate all of our past inductees each year as well.
I was at the one last year, and it was an amazing event. If anyone has a chance to go, they should. The networking is incredible. I have at least 5 permanent network relationships from that last event, and all of them have helped do great things. So it's so worthwhile. The learning and the education that I got was amazing.
That's great. Well, hopefully we'll see you in Atlanta this year, and if not, at a future year.
Join the Women in Manufacturing Education Foundation as we present the 3rd annual Women in Manufacturing Hall of Fame induction ceremony and gala on Wednesday, October 12th at 6 p.m. at the Omni Atlanta Hotel at CNN Center. The Women in Manufacturing Hall of Fame seeks to recognize women who have made or are making renowned contributions to the manufacturing industry regarding efforts to support, promote, and inspire women in manufacturing. 13 trailblazing women will be inducted into our 2022 class following the WiM Summit. To purchase a table or an individual ticket to the gala, go to www.womeninmanufacturing.org. The Women in Manufacturing Hall of Fame induction ceremony and gala is presented by BASF.
So as we go through and kind of close our conversations with guests that hear her story, we often like to close with some rapid fire questions. So the first is your favorite quote and why?
One of my favorites is a short one. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're absolutely right. And that came from Henry Ford. And that's just a mental of mind position. If you're talking to somebody or something, and women do this a lot. Oh, I can't do that. I suck at this. It's like, well, then you can't, because you're just telling yourself you can't. And you set yourself up for failure. So you have to be able to set yourself up to see how you can succeed and get through so that you can make the objective.
It's definitely about mindset, right? We're often our worst enemies.
And that was Henry Ford.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, how insightful of him back in the day to have that same feeling and awareness and observation. So your favorite book, you said you're an avid reader, so you probably read a lot, and it's probably hard for you to select one, but if you had to pick a favorite book, what would it be?
I read so many books. One of my recent favorites is The Happiness Advantage by Shawn Achor. And it's about getting people engaged in what they're doing in the workspace and the natural benefits that come as a result of that. He's got so many facts and trends, and it's a great book to read. It's not a hard read, and I just love it. I use so many details out of it in my daily life to help people get motivated, stay motivated. You can't force a person to be happy, but you can help remove barriers so that they can see their way to a happier place.
I'm going to have to check it out. And your favorite movie?
I love Singing in the Rain, just the music and the dancing. It's a fun movie.
That is a good movie. And favorite podcast? I'm sure there's so many podcasts now, but if you had to pick one, what's your favorite?
I have no time for them. I really don't. I am so busy in the day-to-day and with the voluntary activities. I do very, very little podcast listening. I've made time for two streams, and that is the supply chain that comes out of Quistem with Kathy Fisher, and then also Gravitas Detroit by Jan Griffiths. So those are the two that I've bookmarked a few on. I heard that you're on one coming up next, so I'm going to have to bookmark and listen to that one. But other than that, they are very far and few in between for me.
It's tough, as you said, there's only so many hours in the day, and it's really difficult to prioritize between personal obligations, work, trying to, maybe have a pleasure read. It's tough to kind of fit all those things in.
Yeah, when I'm driving, back and forth to the office, I'm almost always on work calls. So you don't have time to listen to them then. You're at home, I'm playing volleyball, or I'm out in the garden doing something else. I just have to be very selective.
Yeah, that makes sense. What was the last place that you traveled to?
My last fun place was Antarctica. So in Antarctica, we had a 21-day trip. My daughter and I went with my sister-in-law and nephew. And we went to Argentina, went down to the southernmost part in Tierra del Fuego, and took a boat across the Drake Passage into Antarctica. It was a very, let's say, physical adventure. Every day you're out on the boat, you're climbing the glaciers, you're climbing mountains, you're snowshoeing, you're hiking. Very, very physical. Great, great fun. Incredible learning voyage. I recommend it strongly for anybody that has the guts to go. It's not for the weak of heart. You can stay on the boat the whole time if you'd like, more power to you, but then you miss the stuff. Daughter made a YouTube video of a compilation of all the photos that we took. And it's just stunning. About a third of the ice is now gone.
Wow.
The rest of it's going to be gone in 25 to 30 years. That'll change the salinities of the oceans. It'll change the ability of the sea life to exist. There's just going to be so many impacts that we don't even know what they're all going to have. The fact that the ice is above the water helps to regulate our climate today. And the fact that it's becoming less and less is what's believed to be creating more and more of the irregular climate that we're seeing now. It's just very, very impactful. And we get to see it firsthand. It takes about 2 years to get there. So if you're going to go soon, and while you physically can.
Wow. Well, we will have to put a note in our show notes and the podcast recording of where people can access that YouTube video to see the highlights of your trip. That sounds amazing.
That would be awesome. The coolest thing that we did, which I do not recommend for everybody, was ice camping, where you get a little shovel. They leave you on a glacier. You dig a hole 3 feet deep. And as long as you are wide, they give you 3 little sleeping bags, and you tuck yourself into all 3 sleeping bags and zip up. And you have to be below the level of the ice, and there is no tent. And then it snows and sleets on you, and the wind blows overhead, and the little penguins walk around and look over the side and say, "Oh, what's in the hole?" And it was a very unique adventure.
Well, kudos to you and praise. You sound very adventurous. I need to adopt some of those traits, I think.
That was my daughter's fault.
Yeah, that's great that she's inspired you to get more adventurous and to take some of these chances and risks. And how great to have seen all of these places. And I'm definitely going to check out your YouTube video. So personal professional goals that you had for the year or for 2022?
I'm just working to maintain my balance between work and the professional service to the different global communities that I support. That takes a lot of my effort to juggle all those things, but it's a worthwhile effort for me.
Well, I mean, thanks for all that you do to give back. I mean, I know that you have always been very kind to give of your time and wisdom and advice to other women in industry. And so I so appreciate, and the industry so appreciates you giving and kind of paying it forward to, future and current generations in manufacturing careers. So it's much appreciated. And as we close up today, if there was one piece of advice that you would want to share with the next generation of women in manufacturing, what would it be?
Leverage mentoring and listen well. Then determine if what you hear from that individual will help you be better at what you want to do and accomplish. And if not, let them know why you think that will or won't help you. Have that engaged discussion. Whenever you decide to do, act with meaning. So I do remember reading that if one person, calls you a horse's behind, you can listen but ignore it. And if 2 people call you a horse's behind, then you should take serious consideration. But if 3 people call you a horse's behind, you need to get a saddle. And that's where a mentor helps you identify whether or not you need a saddle.
Great advice, Jd. I love it. Well, it has been such a joy having a conversation with you today, and I'm thrilled to have you be a guest here on Hear Her Story. And thanks for sharing your story, and thanks for staying connected to our community. And I wish you nothing but the best throughout the rest of this year. And I'm sure our paths will cross many times throughout industry events. So thanks, Jd, for all you do, and thanks for being a guest today.
Thank you for your leadership in WiM, Allison. It's a phenomenal organization, and I'm honored to be a part of it.
Well, thank you, Jd. Well, take care. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you for listening to Hear Her Story, a podcast produced by the Women in Manufacturing Association. Be sure to share, review, and subscribe to Hear Her Story on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen.